Can I have your attention, please? I'd like to go ahead and open the Board of Trustees meeting for Tennessee Tech. First, I'd like to welcome Mr. Alex Martin, the Director of Appointments in Governor Bill Lee's office. Thank you for joining us today. Stand up, please. And before we even do the roll call...
And I believe he's a Tech alum and former student body president.
Oh, wow. Welcome back. Anyway, it's really my pleasure to introduce the lady standing before us. At the beginning of all our board meetings, we try to do something very student-centric. It keeps us focused on the purpose of why we're all here. And I think today you certainly represent that very, very well. So I'm pleased to welcome a representative from Tech's women's track team today to tell us about their back-to-back OVC titles under four-time coach, OVC Coach of the Year, Wayne Angel. And I think representing the coaching staff today is Assistant Coach Whitney Fountain. Thank you for being here. And, but more importantly, these three young ladies that I got to meet at lunch, I'll go ahead and introduce Raven Smith. She's a senior from Atlanta, Georgia, to introduce her teammates who joined us today. Raven?
Yes. Hi, I'm Raven Smith, and this is Ashay Robertson, Kamani Roberts, and our assistant coach, Whitney Fontaine. And we are the part of the track and field team here at Tech. 2 years ago, we came in second and third place, and that wasn't good enough. So we worked harder, and last year we won the first ever indoor and outdoor championship. And I know I can speak for most of my teammates and say that it was truly amazing and a blessing in order to win that for Tennessee Tech. Most collegiate athletes can't say they made history at the institution for the 4 or 5 years they've been there, but we can. So we hope we can continue our success this May in our outdoor OVC. Thank you.
And just one point to clarify, I found out at lunch that both Barry and I did high jump in high school, and they challenged us, and we will not be having that competition.
Next time. Thank you.
I was there, and they were not challenged because you all didn't challenge them in the least. Those ladies are eating you for lunch.
That's enough, Trudy. Thank you all so much. I'm sorry, I felt like I had to rush that a little bit because they're actually late for class, and they were trying to get to class. Anyway, next, I'm very pleased to welcome one of the co-captains of Tech's Baja SAE team, Craig Bowen. Tech will be hosting the Baja SAE event at Heidelbergs this April. Craig will introduce his co-captain and the team's faculty advisor and tell us why Tech is a revered name in international competition. Please, all of you come up. Don't be shy.
Hello, I'm Craig Bowen. I'm a mechanical engineer here. This is Dr. Dale Wilson. He's one of our faculty advisors, and this is Max Lamatia. He's my other co-captain for the team.
I don't know how much all of you know about Baja, but what is the process is that our students design, build, and compete with a single-seat off-road vehicle for the competitions, and you see some of these pictures that are up right now to kind of give you a hint of what those are. What we'd like for you to know, though, is that we are the most decorated team in the world. Maybe not in the whole universe like you've been, but we have won more championships than any other institution in the whole world. The event we will have here will be an international event with student teams coming from India and Egypt and Canada and Mexico and Venezuela and all kinds of other areas. We have won more than anybody else, and because of these students. I want them to tell you a little bit more.
I'm from Smyrna, Tennessee. He's from Murfreesboro. It's just the Nashville area. When we were back in high school, we had a race here at Tech in 2016, and we came out to watch it with our friends just to see what it was. We had heard so much about Tennessee Tech, and that's really what Baja is for Tennessee Tech. It's a huge marketing standpoint. Everybody hears you on the international level. We were so excited to come here, and we've been in it since freshman year. We have absolutely loved every single second of it. It's a huge deal, both for the university and for us students. For us students, it's one thing to learn things in classes and know things from textbooks, but to put it to use in Baja before you go out into professional studies, it's amazing. Just the things that we learn, the things that we do here every day at Tennessee Tech, and we're very proud to be a part of this and be a part of the school doing this.
And it's not only our professors that give us the success, as well as our students, but also our sponsors. Denso is one of our biggest supporters, as well as Fast Signs and AutoZone and several other companies. And it opens doors and opens connections for our students. These career fairs, these companies come in and they see Baja on our resumes and they love it. They point us out. They want us with them. And it opens up doors. It gives us these internships, these co-ops, these future jobs. We can't do it without them, so.
You guys really, really liked playing in the dirt when you were kids, didn't you? Yeah.
Just a little bit.
So nice work.
And you can see that the pictures just went by there. This is when we took some students over to India, and we were helping train them to do the Baja competition, and we were able to do the presentations there and help elevate the programs over there in India as well. So it was a great experience for our students to go to India and have that experience, as well as to help the students there as well.
I think the number you said 12 championships,
12
isn't that right?
Yes, sir.
12. Wow.
This past year, one other team got to 7. And so up until that time, we'd had at least twice as many championships.
Keep the press on, you bet.
Yes.
Both.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and this is really a classic place for us. The students really love to come here to Tennessee Tech for this event because of that fact of the facility there at Heidelberg's. It's wonderful, and working with Rusty Chilcutt out there is absolutely fantastic. And so we are able to have some events inside, some events are outside, and then when we do the 4-hour endurance race, which is the capstone for the whole event, we will run through the arena and out and through the farm, through the creeks and the woods and all around there, and have obstacles for them to maneuver all around there. And so they absolutely love coming here to Tennessee Tech. And I think I was hearing that a lot of students already on Snapchat and all the Instagram and all those things talking about getting to come to Cookeville for this event.
You know, one thing interesting, I was talking to these guys earlier, they're not just driving a tractor around. Part of their scoring is on their presentation, how all that goes through, and really interesting. So it's multifaceted, so
Yes,
good on you. Keep up the good work.
Right.
Unless they build it, yeah, exactly.
Are you seniors or juniors or what are?
He's a junior, I'm a senior.
Right.
I just wanted to say too, Dale Wilson, you have supported and built this program for so many years, and I really, living here in Cookeville, recognize you in this role, and I just wanted to recognize you and say thank you for what you've done for this program.
Thank you. Tom, I really appreciate it. My first event I went to was 1988, so we have a lot of students here that don't even understand that date, but it has been tremendous. It's been a wealth of enjoyment for me to see these students grow and the way they have. And it's been wonderful, the support we've got from the institution. Every single president, and I can tell you this president likes to drive the car, as well as our provost who likes to drive the car. These are great experiences to have. So it's really made my career a great thing.
But these are the kinds of things that make Tennessee Tech unique. And you are one of those people that make that happen. And thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks. Anyway, thank you. Okay, so to continue with our normal meeting, just to remind all the board members to use your microphones, we are live streaming. And so to start the meeting officially, let's go ahead and have a roll call.
Allard.
Here.
Geis.
Here.
Harper. Here. Rose.
Here.
Segurity.
Here.
Stites.
Here.
Van Hooser.
Here.
Wilmore.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Okay, so first item, it's actually item number 3, is the approval of the minutes. The minutes have been published in your book. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes as approved?
So moved.
Second.
A motion made and seconded. Any amendments or discussions? All in favor of accepting the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. So we're ready for item number 4, the President's Report. Dr. Oldham.
Well, good afternoon, and let me formally welcome everybody back to campus. It's a wonderful time of year. I'm a spring person, so first full day of spring. It's great to have you on campus this time of year, anytime for that matter. And I also want to highlight the fact that, lest we forget, that this marks the 2-year anniversary of the founding of this Board of Trustees. So I want to compliment every one of you for the job that you've done over the last 2 years. It's been an incredible journey with you, and I appreciate that, all your efforts considerably. It's been a pretty fast 2 years, I think, in a lot of ways. I'm going to start by introducing Karen Likens, our Associate Vice President for Communications and Marketing, and she's going to give us a report on the new website installation here at Tech. And so I'll just call on Karen to come on up now and give you that presentation.
Thank you. I'm so excited to show you this today. It's taken a lot of work from a lot of people across campus. We have about 200 web managers who help the Office of Communications and Marketing do this work. It had been since June 2014 since we had a refresh of the look, and that's when we adopted a content management system that we could no longer support. Took a lot of outside support, expensive outside support, so we decided to go look for a product that the other LGIs use that's called OU Campus, and it allowed us to launch on March 7th. And our goals were to show this university the way we all see it, as a place that is beautiful, as you see the drone footage, substantial, important to this community, and a fun place to be. So you'll see a lot of student life, and thank you, Melissa. I know she said, it looks like people are having fun here, and that's what we want to do. You'll see that we make it very easy for a student to visit. You can go up to the top, you can go to the middle, down at the bottom. We want people to come to campus, and this is one of our primary reasons that we wanted to do this redesign, is to help us in the recruiting and marketing. We know if we get students to Enrollment Management's team to let them tour campus, that we've got them. We will convert a lot of students who have been admitted if they just come to campus and have that experience. So we want to make it, very easy here for them to come and find a way to schedule a visit. So we have our video, then we have a quick look at Tennessee Tech, just gives you some stats. You see those there. It'll take you to a fast facts page. So if anybody ever asks you trivia questions about the university, you can go check this page and find out current enrollment status, just various stats about the university that you might want to have handy for you. The next section I want to spend a little bit of time on. This was the one that we were very passionate about. People who are shopping for colleges and majors, the parents and the students, and those of you who have done that lately know that you may not know anything other than what I want to be. Right? What I want to major in or what I want to be. So we wanted to make sure that this site was arranged in a way where people could choose their major, choose a career, and see what we had at Tennessee Tech. So if you click on major, you can go about it a few different ways, just an A to Z list. That's an obvious, easy one. Or you can search through there. And we search for engineering, for instance. I know I want to major in engineering. And if you do it in the search bar, it'll bring up what we call a majors card. What we want to do is get the most information we can. So every one of those entries will have a card that will give you a little introduction. It'll tell you the careers that are related to that major. You can visit the program website very easily, and it should tell you all the contact information that you need there to make your next phone call, to go and get more information. So we tried to drive the conversation and basically to keep people on our site. If they type in zoology, for instance, we don't have a major in zoology, but we don't want them to leave. So what they're going to get is a biology page to continue the conversation. And we're monitoring the statistics that we get that Cody looks at. So the reason we added zoology, that was not in our original list, but we had 5 people looking for that. That's 5 students that could have kept on the website, so we immediately adjusted. So we're watching that information and adjusting this list and the keywords to make sure that they get some information that they need, and we don't just give up on them. Oh, we don't offer zoology, let me move on to the next place. If we go back to the home page and you choose career, very similar system. It pulls from the same list, but you can also, if you know you want to be an architect, it will take you to some choices, particularly civil and environmental engineering, give you the careers, so we can put in the careers that are associated. If we don't have that major, at least it will associate with what we do have here on campus. The next section back on the home page is helping graduate studies with their information, continue your education, and give them a spotlight on the home page. And then below that is our storytelling spot, where we have a student spotlight, a faculty spotlight, research, and alumni. The best way to tell about Tennessee Tech is through the good stories. You see the students get up here, we write about them, we write about our alumni, we write about our faculty, and this is the multimedia purpose. We use these same stories in publications, we pitch these stories to news outlets, but we always want to have them here so that people can read about the different roles and the different achievements of our campus community. If we go back to the homepage again, you see news and events and a calendar, just a daily function that makes sure we keep everyone up to date. And an added feature also, it was very important to us, if we're selling Tennessee Tech, we are also marketing Cookeville. That is one of the big partnerships that we have with them. We're going to build this out. If you could go ahead and click on see what's happening. This is not as good as it could be, but it's a start. We're working with the chamber to come up with a set of assets, photos, and videos to really showcase what you can do in this community and be Tennessee's college town. I think we are, but I think we probably lack the information or the visuals we need to really sell that. So that's something we're going to be working with the chamber on to build a much stronger piece there. But we do have it there. We have it added, and I think there's a lot of good information there, particularly for parents and students who want to see a lot of the outdoor activities. And if we go back to the home page, you will see at the bottom, experience tech for yourself. If you see schedule your visit, this should be a very easy thing to do with your dates. Is that working for you? Yeah, schedule your visit today, your spring visit dates, what's included in a visit, and schedule now. So it's very prospective student oriented. You can have a virtual tour, find out a little more about just how the logistics of how to make this tour work. And for my last part, let's go to tentech.edu/board. I don't know if you've seen your board pages on the website. I'll show you how they're presented on this new style. There's all the details of your meeting, and we get a lot of questions, and I think the public probably, and maybe some campus community members aren't familiar with these pages. This is where everything is. It'll tell you the complete schedule, all your materials, what we are sharing with each other today is already there. They go up a few days before the meeting, so if you're interested in the workings of what's going on, it is really all here on this page. If we click on Trustees, we'll look at Forrest's profile here to show you if you want to learn a little bit more about each other. Everybody has their page with their photo, kind of some career information, so it's all right there if somebody asks you about the board and what you're participating in. Again, a big team effort. Very grateful to Enrollment Management and Admissions. They worked really hard on that career and majors component with us, and we appreciate that because we think that's being responsive to the needs of our audiences. Still some work to do. We've got some pages to flesh out. We are gathering input. Visited Faculty Senate on Monday, got a lot of good input, made some changes this week based on that information, and was thrilled to see an Oracle article, the student newspaper yesterday, and good comments from students about the ease of finding their information, and that was a very positive article, and I appreciated seeing that because that lets us know that we're serving our audiences. Do you have any questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. I appreciate Karen and her staff and all the work that's gone into that website launch. It's, as you can imagine, it's a pretty massive undertaking, but and they've still got some work to do, but I appreciate all the work that's gone into it. More than ever, I'm convinced that Tennessee Tech and our community as a whole share an authenticity that people need now, particularly in history. And that is based on the fact that Tech provides a real education for real people who want real careers. We're very tangible, we're very approachable, and we're very practical. We're not a trend, we're not a fad. We are absolutely what this community and this state and nation needs. Authentic, hardworking, more earnest, less cynical, and the bottom line is we're real. I think that was reflected in Governor Lee's proposed budget that was unveiled earlier this month. He showed a lot of confidence in what we have going on here at Tennessee Tech, with more than $15 million of additional funding for the university, with about $4 million of that being recurring, $4.5 million roughly being recurring dollars, another $11 million being for capital one-time improvements. Of that $11 million for capital improvements, $3.25 million, and I'd learned this from Trustee Harper, don't bury the lead here, so I'm not going to bury the lead, Trudy. And that is simply, we've got $3.25 million in the governor's budget to do the planning process for a new engineering building, a much needed new engineering building. It'll be the first engineering building built on this campus since 1971. So it's long overdue, and we're very excited about this opportunity and anxious to get started. Additionally, in the governor's budget, there's nearly $8 million for facilities maintenance. We've talked a lot about in the board meetings about deferred maintenance on the campus. This goes a long way. Doesn't solve our problems, but it goes a long way to fixing a lot of those issues, a lot of roof repairs and building renovation projects that are also sorely needed. So that proposed budget is very kind to us in that regard. Additional recurring state appropriations include approximately $3.5 million total through the funding formula, which includes about a little over $800,000 of a redistribution, reallocated monies in the formula. As you remember from the December board meeting, when Director Mike Krause from THEC was here, he spoke about Tennessee Tech being the top performing university in the state this past year. So that $800,000 of redistributed funds is a direct reflection of that performance that we had last year. So a lot of credit goes to faculty and staff on campus that have made that possible. And obviously the winners in all this are the students, because they benefit from all that hard work. Also, there's $900,000 in the governor's budget of recurring funds for Tennessee Tech's change in Carnegie classification. I think, as has been indicated to you previously, we're now considered a Research 2 university by the Carnegie classification, doctoral research university 2. And so that brings that total of recurring dollars up to $2.1 million, which is what the state had promised us about 3 years ago. So we are very appreciative of the state's commitment to follow through on that commitment. There's also another $500,000 of one-time money for our Cybersecurity Education and Research Outreach Center. This is the third year of a 4-year commitment from the state, a total of $2 million to match the National Science Foundation grant that was received for cybersecurity education. So a lot of good things, a lot of positive things to dwell on in that regard. But it's very important to point out that despite the progress that we've made and the successes that recently, we absolutely cannot slow down, and we cannot become complacent or content with our position. We all understand the competition that we're against and the fact that the world moves at lightning speed today, so we've got to continue to press forward. And with that, I'm excited to introduce to the board today the grand challenge for Tennessee Tech University. And this is a product of our strategic planning process. Tennessee Tech Tomorrow has been led by a large group of faculty and students, staff, and administrators that have been working on a grand challenge that will leverage the unique assets of Tennessee Tech. And I want to particularly point out a few. I saw Ed here. Some of these others may be here. If they're here, I would like them to stand up and be recognized. I want to thank some of these lead faculty members that have been participating in this for the amazing volume and quality of work they produce. And I'll name them: Jeff Bowles, Ed Lissick, Ann Davis, Jason Beach, and Bedelia Russell. Are any of you here? There's Ed. Okay, well, let's thank... I can't say enough good things about these folks. They've put in a lot of hours and a lot of intellectual time to try to come up with these ideas and make sure that they're doable. They're not just pie in the sky. They're very ambitious. They're very engaging, but they're also very approachable. So what is a grand challenge? Where does that idea come from? We're not the first university to take on a grand challenge of this nature. It was started a few years ago. Most of the universities are much larger universities that you would hear about. UCLA, University of Colorado, Stanford, and others. If you go to the website whitehouse.gov, it tells us that a grand challenge calls for about 4 things. It's an ambitious but achievable goal that leverages your talents and resources to address important national or global problems that capture the public's imagination. As I said, other schools have created grand challenges, and it might be something, UCLA I think has Sustainable LA. I think University of Colorado is space. It might be climate change or something very significant, mammoth even in scope. Ours is different, as you would expect it to be. It will leverage the unique assets of Tennessee Tech, and we're calling it Rural Reimagined. I think you have some flyers, some material in your handouts, and you can peruse that at your pleasure. It's the establishment of Gen R, a generation that creates and supports relevant, impactful, and scalable work that can move all rural communities forward. This fits right into Governor Lee's proposed efforts in accelerating rural collaboration and innovation. So the timing couldn't be better from that standpoint. I believe we're uniquely positioned, both by location and by attitude, quite honestly, and interest, to be able to do this kind of challenge, to be able to harness science, technology, and innovation to help transform in a positive way rural living, developing and supporting the success of rural areas throughout Tennessee in a way that can be replicated to help rural areas throughout the country and even the world. Engaging academic disciplines, administrative offices, and student organizations in this effort, bringing expertise and collaboration to examine rural challenges in these areas. Keep in mind that of the 95 counties in Tennessee, approximately 80 of them are considered rural. And of those counties, 15 are considered distressed, economically distressed counties. Of those 15 economically distressed counties in Tennessee, 8 of them, about half of them, are located here in our backyard in the Upper Cumberland region. This is where our students come from to a large extent. It's where we have great interest. It's where we have a lot of practical knowledge to be able to assist with some of the challenges that they face. And so this is not really anything new to Tennessee Tech, quite honestly. These things we're doing a lot of these things already. We're just not really organizing them or recognizing them in a coherent way, and that's what this helps to do. So areas of rural focus will include everything, even more than this list, but things such as health care, child care, innovation and technology, small business development, career readiness, and rural history. I'll give you a couple of practical, timely examples. In the area of rural health clinics, pre-health professional and students assist with the Cookeville Remote Area Medical Clinic. That's already going on. work alongside professionals from various areas of medicine, serving almost 1,000 patients in need of some type of medical care, including health assessments, treatments, eyeglasses, and dental work. Another area, Dr. Justin Murdoch and graduate students studying streams and lakes in the region for determining the impact of agricultural runoff on aquatic ecosystems. This work is currently being funded by the USDA, and the goal is to learn how nutrients from fertilizers and eroded soil impact health of streams and lakes. And then one that's in the entrepreneurial space that's really interesting, not too far away from us right now, Clay County is one of those distressed counties that we're talking about. And so our Center for Rural Innovation is assisting with marketing efforts and business planning efforts for a startup company in Salina, the product of Clark Buford Bait Company, and it's located in Salina. It's called Wonder Tackle Box, which are tackle boxes actually full of live bait. It's an interesting concept. And tackle equipment for distribution across Tennessee and Kentucky. So helping small businesses in rural areas to build economic prosperity and opportunities in those areas is part of this initiative as well. And so I think you get the idea that the scope of this is pretty limitless of the things that we can participate in and be a part of. And it's something that faculty, students, and others can get involved with in very tangible ways and hopefully help to see the needle move in these areas. Students will be able to put some sweat equity into opportunities and see that tangible product develop over the time they're here at Tennessee Tech. So that's not all of the strategic planning, though. Some other specific recommendations that have been coming out of strategic planning. We're moving forward with diversity goals and support for those diversity goals. I know that's of prime interest to the board, as it should be. It's a prime interest to me as well. And so you will hear more about what we're doing in terms of moving the diversity agenda here at Tennessee Tech over the next few months. Faculty resources for various support areas is of critical importance that strategic planning folks are paying a lot more attention to. And then advising centers for new students within and external to the colleges to make sure that students are getting all the support they need to be successful while they're here at Tennessee Tech. A few other items, I'll just kind of run through a list here a little bit. In terms of, we continued obviously to work with the Strategic Planning Committee and the chair group chairs. We have 3 very important key positions that we're recruiting for now, interviewing 3 deans positions, and one in agriculture and human ecology, one in the College of Engineering, and one in the School of Nursing. All of those are moving forward at a pretty brisk pace right now. We're also in the, actually toward the end stages of a cluster hire of faculty, 5 new faculty in the Department of Computer Science. I think we probably discussed before, and you all recognize how much demand there is now, how many opportunities there are in computer science and related disciplines in the workforce, in the emerging workforce. And we felt like it was very important for us to invest in that area, not only because of the growing student interest and demand, but because of the demand felt in the private sector for those kinds of jobs. And so we're excited that we're getting those filled, and we're getting them filled with some highly capable and competitive young faculty members. So I think you'll probably hear a little bit more of that once they join us in the fall. Construction on campus is continuing at a brisk pace. I think we've got 16 or 17 projects still ongoing. A note of interest that of all the projects, major construction projects going on currently, and there is a large number, all of them except for the new lab sciences building should be effectively completed by the end of this calendar year. So we'll clear up a lot of that on campus in the next few months, and you can obviously see some of the progress that's been made. The addition to the Road and University Center was completed, and we've occupied that space now for a little over a month. Had a great grand opening for that. Now there will be some landscape, green space created in the immediate vicinity behind the University Center over the next few months. That should be completed by the start of the fall semester, and so it will continue to improve the look and feel of the campus. Two of the most historic buildings on campus, Bar 2 and Kittrell Halls, have been under renovation, major renovation. They are scheduled to be reopened by the fall semester as well. So look forward to having those back online. And then the Student Fitness Center is on schedule. That should be completed before this time next year, probably by the start of the spring semester is our intention. So looking forward to that. Now the Science Building is running a few months behind that. The first part of the Science Building should be opened by the fall of 2020, and that being with the lecture hall building component of that. And that will add both a 350-seat auditorium lecture hall as well as a 250-seat lecture hall auditorium for the campus. A great addition for our teaching mission here at Tennessee Tech. In terms of fundraising and advancement, we continue to make great progress there as well. There's just to put on everybody's radar here, there's a Day of Giving scheduled for March 27th. This is an online-only opportunity, but if anyone's so inclined, March 27th will be an opportunity to contribute in an online format for Tennessee Tech. We're also moving forward with adding 3 additional development officers to the advancement staff, along with an associate vice president for advancement. So we know the importance of fundraising to our future as a campus, as a university, and as we move now into soon-to-be post-campaign mode, we know that sustainability of that is very critical, so we want to put more boots on the ground there. And in terms of where we are with the comprehensive campaign, as you recall, we have a $60 million goal. We established that about 5 years ago as a 7-year campaign. So we still have more than 2 years left in the time of the campaign, but we stand right now at $58.6 million of gifts and pledges toward that $60 million goal. So we're well ahead of pace, and we should pass the $60 million goal pretty shortly. So we'll hear more about that. And I think Dr. Braswell is here with us. I'd like for Kevin to stand up, and let's recognize Kevin and his staff for the great job they're doing. That's the progress that has been made in advancement here with fundraising has been quite significant, and that needs to be recognized. Appreciate Kevin and his staff greatly. It's come up earlier about the Tech is Tennessee tour that we've embarked on over the last year or so. We have now hit 25 counties and 38 high schools, predominantly in Middle Tennessee. A lot of these are sort of our bread and butter counties, if you want to call them that, in terms of where our students come from. We've learned a lot about niches that Tennessee Tech already has and where we could play a bigger role in the future. And so we're collecting that information. We're assisting others on campus that can actively engage with those communities in ways that not only help us in the future to attract more students and provide more opportunities, but also help those communities in meaningful ways. In areas like engineering, education, and cybersecurity are pretty hot-button issues. And it's great always to hear the wonderful stories about how their former students and then those that come on to Tennessee Tech about the great things about the education we're giving their students and what they hear in return. So we appreciate that greatly. In terms of marketing, we've launched a major push in mid-March for transfer students and now moving toward targeting admitted students in the top 15 feeder schools. So we don't want to take those individuals for granted just because they've applied and been admitted. We want to make sure we do everything possible to move them toward enrollment here in the fall. Appreciate the board members that have been participating in the first board training exercise that we went through recently in terms of budget and finance. We'll be doing more of these. The next one scheduled will be for enrollment and scholarships, and we'll look forward to establishing a time for that in the near future that's convenient with board members so they can either join us in person or via phone. And we'll look at other topics as time goes on that are important to the board for educational purposes. I guess the bottom line here as I close is that we've got to continue doing what we are doing. Obviously, learn from our efforts and continue to improve, but we've got to continue to be what this country needs and our students need. And that's the kind of university that Peggy Noonan of the Wall Street Journal sees in us. I think all of you had a chance to read the editorial that she wrote recently for the Wall Street Journal. That really speaks much more eloquently than I can about the fact that we are a student-focused university with bold, fearless, and confident graduates who give us and everybody else the assurance that everything is going to be okay. I'm struck by the outpouring of pride we've seen from alumni who sent messages about that recent Wall Street Journal article. You've probably received comments as well from your friends and others. It's been remarkable. And I would say, just kind of anecdotally, it's been interesting because most of the feedback I've gotten is, well, we all knew that already, but it's so nice to hear somebody else say that about us. And so, our students, they see themselves and others see our students who are walking in their footsteps. The world around us is searching for that authenticity, for that genuineness, for earned excellence. And again, this is no surprise to us because that's who we are at Tennessee Tech. It's where we stand on a daily basis. So we need to continue to be that even more and faster if possible, to be that kind of university that Peg and Noonan sees in us. And so let's continue to show the world what it means to live wings up. So thank you for letting me give you that report today, and I'll be glad to answer any questions I can this time.
Is it your intention to assign some metrics to these outcomes or goals that you have in mind so we'll know if we're making progress?
Oh, in terms of the Grand Challenge, is that specifically what you're talking about? Or?
The Grand Challenge or even this other form here, Rural Reimagined. You've got
goals absolutely, yes. And it's a little trickier because some of those are a little less tangible, I guess, but we'll be working on some metrics, but as well as that, just a way of collecting information about what is going on, who's taking part in that, how many students are involved. There's a lot of ways to measure that impact, but one thing that we want to do as well is we want to connect with these rural communities and have advisory groups from those communities to help educate us on areas that they want us to pay attention to as well. So there's a lot of opportunity there.
I think because it is more intangible, makes it all the more important that we have metrics to give us some idea of whether or not we're making progress as a university.
Yeah, and as you can imagine, many of these problems are difficult problems. I mean, we're not kidding ourselves here. We're not naive about the difficulty of some of these issues, but I feel very strongly that we have an opportunity to do something very positive here, and I think we will make a difference.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Dr. Olin.
Thanks.
So moving ahead, we're ready for item number 5, the Academic and Student Affairs Committee Report and Recommendations. So this morning in the Academic and Student Affairs Committee, There were a couple of actions that were taken. There were 2 letters of notification. One was a Master of Science in Sustainable Agriculture, and the other one a Master of Science in Community Health and Nutrition. Both of these were passed for submission to THEC. Just a reminder to the full board, because of previous policy, that no longer has to come to the board. A committee action is all that's required to send that on to THEC. Next, there was a transfer of the Communication Department. The Academic and Student Affairs Committee approved the transfer of the Communication Department from the College of Arts and Sciences to the College of Interdisciplinary Studies. And then also in the committee meeting, the Society of Collegiate Journalists addressed the committee and board members on the proof of Tennessee citizenship requirement in TEC's proposed rule related to access to public records. The requesters asked to address this issue at this meeting rather than at the June meeting, simply because students would not be on the campus in June. The requesters have asked the board to consider allowing the use of university identification cards to be used instead of proof of Tennessee citizenship, such as a Tennessee driver's license. So the board will consider this comment and other comments received related to that rule at its June meeting. That particular rule and policy is scheduled to come up in the June meeting anyway, so we'll certainly take that under consideration, and we have asked Kay to look into the legality of that and using student ID for that purpose. So then we have the consent agenda for the Academic and Student Affairs Committee. There are 3 items on the consent agenda. First is Policy 260, which are requirements for a baccalaureate degree in graduation. Then there's Policy 261, which is academic credit from other institutions. And there is Policy 263, the academic retention standards. All of these have been discussed. The information is in your board book. I'd like to entertain a motion from someone on that committee to approve the consent agenda, including policies 260, 261, and 263.
So moved.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second made by Barry. Any other discussion or questions from the consent agenda? Seeing none, all in favor of the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so much. So now we're ready for item, well, it's actually C, the regular agenda from the Academic and Student Affairs Committee. This is Ttu Policy 121. It is a policy and a rule. It was discussed this morning in the committee meeting. One thing we noticed after the meeting this morning, and just for a point of clarification, is that we did recommend an amended change to the rule. And the purpose for this change is that, just going specifically to page 138 in your book, there is a point about who actually approves requests from non-affiliated users to use any space on campus for free speech. And that wasn't addressed in the proposal. So what we have done, and it's actually in your book now, if you want to pull it up, they actually put it in there during lunch. So on page 138, the amendment now reads, non-affiliated users must submit an application for use for drug-free speech activities and receive approval, and we've inserted the words, from the Dean of Students and the Vice President for Student Affairs, and then prior to any free speech activities. So that is an amendment that has changed since the committee meeting this morning. So I would like to entertain a motion that we approve policy and rule 121 as amended.
I so move.
Okay. We have the
Second.
We have a motion made by Perna. Do we need a motion from the committee member?
Barry.
Barry made the motion. Perna made the second. Okay. So the motion has been made and seconded. Any other questions or concerns or comments on adding that amendment to that rule?
I just think the verbiage we discussed earlier was to have 2 individuals look at it, and that's kind of was the driver's good thing to share.
And we listed the 2.
We did.
I mean,
Right.
and that's how I amended it during lunch.
Right.
And it just says the 2 are the Dean of Students and the Vice President for Student Affairs. those two positions. Any other questions, comments? This is a significant rule, and as a rule, we need to have a roll call vote. So seeing no other questions or comments.
Can I just ask a question for clarification?
Yes,
I want to be
please.
sure I'm on the right page. You made the change on page 138, is that right?
That's correct. And I think we also made the change on 166 and 167 under the policy as well.
I'm with you. I'm sorry. I had in my head this was for affiliated users, but this covers both affiliated and unaffiliated, but our change is only to unaffiliated users, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, then I'm with you. I'm sorry to slow us down.
No problem. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote.
Geist.
Aye.
Harper.
Aye.
Rose.
Aye.
Sigourney.
Aye.
Stites.
Aye.
Van Hooser.
Aye.
Wilmore.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we're now ready for item number 6, which is the Audit and Business Committee report and recommendations. So, Teresa?
Okay, the first item that we'll talk about is the credit card processing fee that was part of the committee meeting. And the Audit and Business Committee discussed the costs associated with the credit card processing fees, and now we'll be charging that back to the students, but giving them multiple options to pay without using the credit card. So that was reported on this morning in our committee meeting, and there's no vote required for that. The next item is a non-mandatory online fee for consideration at the June meeting. The Audit and Business Committee discussed considering a non-mandatory online fee at the, we'll consider doing a non-mandatory online fee at the June meeting. So we approved some, or we've got some for approval, some non-mandatory, but we have one that we want to bring forward at the June meeting that didn't quite have all of the data ready to present at the at this meeting, so it'll be part of the June meeting. And item 3 on the report is a notice of responsibility that was formally presented in the Audit and Business Committee meeting complying with the TCA section 4-35-105, section 3, which requires a formal reiteration on a regular basis of the responsibilities of the governing board and management for preventing, detecting, and reporting fraud, waste, and abuse.
I'm going to make a question to clarification. Maybe I'm wrong, but
yes,
this item number A2, non-mandatory online fee for consideration at the June meeting, isn't that supposed to be the mandatory fees considered at the June meeting?
We had one non-mandatory that wasn't ready for.
Oh, I understand.
So we have our normal process is to do non-mandatory at this meeting and the mandatory at the June meeting. And so this one was not ready for today's meeting.
Okay.
And so it's going to be requested that we be able to talk about it at the June meeting.
So at the June meeting, we'll take the non-mandatory fees that were already voted on this morning and?
No, those will be later on. So
Okay.
This is just a summary of the things that didn't require additional voting.
I'm sorry.
We'll get to the vote. It took me a minute too, but so now we'll go to, that was just part of the report, and we'll go to the regular agenda. And item 1 is the Dennis estate. The university was designated as a beneficiary of the Dennis estate to establish an annual scholarship fund to be known as the BJ and Cleo Nash Dennis Scholarship Fund. And so upon the committee's recommendation, I move that the board approve the establishment of a quasi-endowment and to invest the funds through the foundation's common fund.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Perna. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and call a vote. All in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay. The next one is on the non-mandatory fees that we talked about today. The first one is the approval of the 2019 non-mandatory fees, and which is, one was housing fees and one was the nursing DNP graduate fee. So upon the committee's recommendation, I move that the board approve the recommended 2019 and 20 non-mandatory fees.
So I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Perna. Do you have any other questions, comments? Okay, so we need seeing none, we need a roll call vote.
Geist.
Aye.
Harper.
Aye.
Rose. Aye. Sigardi.
Aye.
Stites.
Aye.
Van Hooser.
Aye.
Wilmore.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Teresa.
Okay. The next is policy 122, rental of Tennessee Tech property and the rule associated with that. Policy 122 is related to the rental of Tennessee Tech University property and the associated rule. Upon the committee's recommendation, I move that the board approve policy 122, rental of Tennessee Tech property and the rule.
Motion is made. Do we have a second? A second by Johnny. Any other questions, discussions? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Geist.
Aye.
Harper.
Aye.
Rose.
Aye.
Sigardi.
Aye.
Stites.
Aye.
Van Hooser.
Aye.
Wilmore.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Okay, so that concludes all our normal business. There are two items that I'm going to bring to the agenda for during the other business. The first one is this morning when Dr. Johnson was here talking about enrollment. Is he here now? Okay. We asked for some additional data, and I understand that your office was so efficient that you actually added it to the board book, and we have it now. So do you want to tell us about that, just to remember the question and tell us what we're looking at?
Yeah.
It's under tab 7, other business. 7.2. You probably have to
You have to go
refresh.
out of,
You have to go out and refresh your board book. Just give us just a moment to let them
Okay.
pull it out. Okay, Dr. Johnson, we okay?
All right. I share with you there was a request to see specific, more specific admissions numbers for the fall 2019. So what you have in front of you is it's actually a snapshot. I mentioned the dashboard, the admissions dashboard that we have built and continue to work on, but it's a snapshot as of today where we stand in terms of new student recruitment. So the first page that you see is a lot of information, and we'll move to the second page so you can actually see it and view it easier. But one of the things I did want to show is on the left-hand side, we have areas where we can select variables to make determination of what data.
I don't mean to interrupt you. Is it possible to pull it up on the screen since it's on the board books? Okay.
You want me to wait or continue?
I'll go ahead and ask a question because I don't understand the terminology. Total, you have a term called total apps and then apps completed. And so I'm assuming an app is an application. So total apps and then apps completed, what's the difference between those two?
Yes.
Not there. Refreshed it.
Total apps, that's going to be if somebody just submitted the online application or submitted an application. Apps completed is actually if they have completed the application process. So these would be to be reviewed. in some capacity.
So what's the difference, Dr. Johnson? I'm sorry. So if I just, if I just open up the website and put my name in, have I started an app?
You would have started and we'd have record of that, but when you actually have to acknowledge some consent and then push submit to be an official application submitted.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, and then I could submit one, but it still wouldn't be complete. Is that your point?
Yeah, it wouldn't be completed in that we would then need ACT GPA scores, your high school transcript and ACT scores to make a determination of your acceptance. Yeah, and so that's the black line.
So the black line's the one that, those are serious, those kids are serious,
Yeah,
right?
those have done everything that we require in terms of
Gotcha.
for us to
Okay.
review, and then we'll either make a determination of acceptance, denial, and there's some that are just in review at that point for various reasons. Either we're requesting additional information or there's something there that we're looking at.
So when you have admitted, like for example, 2019 fall, 4,735, yeah, wow, technology is amazing.
It is.
I mean, obviously all of the admitted don't show up. What kind of percentage show up?
Yeah, so we, on the would be my right-hand side, so the blue box, the blue bars that run horizontally, that's our overall conversion for those years. So those are admitted students, those are final conversion rates or yield rates. So those are the percent of admitted students who actually enrolled over the past 4 years. What will happen over the next few months as we start enrolling students, we will have a comparison to where we were same time that year. So it's always date stamped. All these actions are date stamped, so we can tell if we're on target to hit our goals. And so they're not on there now. It just says yield today percent. There's no data there because we have not started enrolling students started enrolling freshman students.
Yeah, I think that blue line actually gives more the true picture, because even though you're admitted, and apps completed and admitted has continued to increase, the conversions are declining.
Right.
Is 2015 when Tennessee Promise hit? I can't remember. Is that, yeah, okay. Do you think that that's part of it? Do you think people apply, think about Tennessee Tech, but then maybe the draw of Tennessee Promise?
Yeah, I think that's one of the major influences that we had. I don't know all the time, and I know last year University of Tennessee Knoxville opened up their freshman class. They included some more, and so it's amazing those variances in the market and what the impact they have on us. And some we're aware of, and some we're not until late in the recruitment cycle. But yeah, there's usually each year there's sort of a story behind what we experienced, and we try to adjust to make sure we don't experience that same thing again. But every year is a new year a lot of times with the market influence, and every school changes up their strategy as well.
When UT opened up its enrollment, did they just say we're going to take this many more students, or did they actually change their application requirements?
My understanding is they just increased their freshman class. They didn't change the standards, they just increased them. So this, what I wanted to show you is just that there's an incredible amount of power behind this dashboard, in that colleges, you can get to the college level, you can get to the major level and concentration. And so this obviously isn't live, but if you were in this, you can get down to an accounting major or a engineer major and figure out, are we trending favorably in that category? So we really can get into the information and make adjustments based on who we're communicating with and understanding who we convert best on to make sure that we're continuing to drive enrollment in that capacity. So there's a lot of power behind this. We use this as an active. I think it's updated 3 or 4 times throughout the day to give us the most accurate information. And so it's a pretty powerful tool that has been built over the last 6 to 7 months that has helped us. And there's about 5 pages below this. One of them is high schools. We can tell which high schools, how our applications are compared to high schools. You all can have that, but there's a lot more to this that will likely be shared during that information session.
Do you see the University of Tennessee as a major competitor to us recruiting students?
We definitely cross apps with them. I mean, students are, we're a much different institution, but when they, I think when students start the process, they don't necessarily recognize that as much as once they get into the process and start to get to understand who we are as an institution compared to who they are. I think some of the top academic students we will cross more apps with when it becomes less regional. We'll definitely go against them in terms of trying to recruit them. But
do you know the top 5 metrics that make us more appealing to students than UT?
Expand on that a little bit. Like why students
So if
choose
we're going
us
to
over-
recruit people to here from UT, if they can just open their freshman class and decimate our freshman class, you need to know, and everybody in this school needs to know, what are the top 5 metrics that say you ought to be coming here instead of UT?
Right.
They can tell you what their top 5 are.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just suggesting that should become a common knowledge among the faculty, the staff, the students, the alumni, everybody in Tennessee that we're trying to recruit to this university needs to know those top 5 items.
Yeah, we continue to push. I mean, all of our collateral and all of our messages is really a lot of what we've discussed today, the career readiness, #1 public university, ROI, career preparation. Cookeville, we spend a lot of time making sure they understand their location and embracing that location. And so our messages are very sound on that to make sure, because it's also important to us for a retention standpoint that we are communicating effectively with them. So we don't get them here and then it's something that they didn't desire, it's something they didn't want. And so we are sound. You know, I'm not sure everybody would have the same 5 across campus, but I'd say from the admissions and marketing, that there's a common theme of what we continue to push out to our prospective students and our current and students who are here. I think it's important that we continue to remind them of how many great things we have going on while they're here.
And you think you and all of your staff are consistent on what those are?
I would say if there's an outlier, it would be more me than my staff. I know my staff is on it, and they're the ones that are working directly with the prospective students and do an incredible job of explaining. And really, you know, when you think about the top 5, there's general ones, but there's times where students aren't all the same, and so we have to adjust our message based on, you know, depending on if they are a high academic student compared to just, you know, maybe a student who is I would say average for us, right? And so they are looking for different things from research, from you know, elements of that we have to adjust our message accordingly to make sure we're talking to them appropriately. But yes.
I don't know if this is possible, because this certainly isn't my wheelhouse, but do we have follow-up surveys on people who don't convert that we can send and say, you know, why didn't you pick us, without you know, sounding sad, but is there, I don't know if there's a way to do that. It'd be really interesting, I think.
I think it's something we can gather. We do have some data on sort of the outside perception of us and why students do it. You know, some of those questions are difficult. You know, some of it's scholarships. A lot of it, you know, I think when we don't have to overthink why they don't choose us. I mean, sometimes it's because they want a larger institution, sometimes because they want a smaller institution, sometimes they wanted to be in a metropolitan area or not, right? And so there are various variables, but you know, the one thing that I continue to get reminded of is sort of that real experience, and we're just you know, when we're out talking with students, it's a very practical discussion with them, and that's what's amazing. And quickly we pick up on when it's not practical. You know, when there's this thought of something that isn't necessarily fitting with who we are. And so, and again, we'll talk to them and we'll try to move them to our place and get them to understand why you know, the tech experience is so impactful. But I think we can do a better job of hearing, you know, sort of why they didn't come, and with students, why did they choose us? Yeah. We survey all of our campus visitors. We have a survey. We know any feedback that we get, good or bad, from our campus visits. And for the most part, it's good. Usually, you know, some things we can't control. So we do get complaints sometimes about construction, right? Isn't that? So we have to explain that that's progress, and that's important for us. But and we always follow up. If it's negative, we always follow up with them on that regard.
So does that number, the 1823, Is that the freshmen enrolled in
Yeah, so
2018?
the bottom right-hand corner is our actual enrollment. And it's not going to, so we actually had 1,890, and the difference is because of summer term. So this is fall term. When we announce our fall class, we do have some students who start with us in the summer as part-time students, but the way we calculate a freshman class is we take those. If they graduate in May, they take a few courses. Our system picks them up as summer. Way too much information, but ultimately it compounds it in the fall, so that's why it doesn't
So,
exactly
Mr.
match.
Chairman, what that's telling me is that our freshman population is actually increasing year over year,
Yes.
as opposed to the broader theme that we were talking about before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the most positive, and I tried to, so the reason I want to show you this is there's just a lot of information, and a variety of people are sent this and have access to this, so they can sort of manipulate the data as they, a dean can look at their specific college or something like that.
But, yeah, you're going to go to the next slide, the new
Yeah.
transfers. Okay.
Oh, then I'll move on. But the major trend that I see, and one of the things is, if you look at the applications, we continue to do a pretty good job of generating the applications. We've done some pretty major movement, but from an effort standpoint, one of the numbers I look at is that 4,922, and are our admissions counselors and is our admissions teams following up with students? That proves that they're doing a pretty good job, because what that's saying, we can't get every student to submit their ACT and GPA, but we're doing a good job of actively pursuing that and working with high schools and counselors to get those scores and get those things in, so we can make a decision and continue that process with them.
I hope this question isn't inappropriate, but do you focus that at all? So in other words, you want to go harder after the 4.0s and the 36s, right, on the ACT than you do after the 18s. I mean, I don't know if you can know that, obviously, until they submit the information. So I'm asking you, how are you plugged into the high schools to know which ones to go after?
I think that's the importance of where the data doesn't show us what we need to know. We just have to have strong relationships.
Right.
And that's, from Dr. Oldham visiting high schools in a variety of aspects of we have these connections and we have these contacts. We continue to need to build relationships to have those real conversations. And you're also right. We don't know always. When a student applies, we don't necessarily know what their scores are. But we let that process, and we treat everybody fairly. I mean, at that point, we're just processing transcripts and requesting them and get them in. And then once they get admitted, then there's different communication flows for each type of student.
And how big is your staff?
Oh my. So we have a director of admissions, we have 2 assistant directors, and 5 recruiters, if I'm right.
That's close enough. I was just trying to, so it's under 10. It's
yeah.
Okay.
And then we have a variety of processors, and like the gentleman that primarily works on this data set, that's primarily what he does, is pull the data for us and pump
Is
out
that
reports.
enough to get the job done?
We've talked about opportunities. One of the things that Dr. Oldham and I have had really incredible conversation with is when we think about competitive advantage and recruiting students, we often compare, how do we look to other schools? And one of the things we've shared this is, well, maybe we need to think of a different model. Maybe there's a different way for us to do this. And we talked about how we engage faculty in that. And so maybe, a traditional recruiter is not what we need. Maybe it's additional support staff to make sure faculty are out helping us in this capacity. So I think there's more discussion on that. I mean, do we have enough recruiters? We are definitely converting applications and we're moving things through. Are we good enough in the relationship standpoint? Probably not yet, but I'm not sure we're ready to sort of make that leap before we know exactly what that looks like in our direction forward.
It does give me cause for concern when in 2019 we had 6,150 people roughly who sent in an application, at least started it. We lost a third of those, 1,500 that year. 1,200 that year who actually finished the application. And then we awarded all but 200 of them roughly. We gave them an entrance to the university. That was 4,700, and our entering class in 2018 was 1,823. That's a huge drop.
Yeah, and I would say the 40% the yield rate is about should be our target. I mean, that's a pretty common number. unfortunately, what you see is students applying to more than one school, and, 3, 4, 5 schools, getting admitted to these schools, and then they wait to see financial aid awards.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Just as a parent of 4 kids, if kids don't just apply to one college anymore. This is just that drop is just a sheer number of how many schools they actually apply to. So it has nothing to do with.
But our hat's in the ring, and so why do we have to miss them?
Maybe they had a first preference to begin with. I mean,
We're going to have an education session on that.
Yeah.
And what I want to hear about in that education session is how, because I'm not interested, this is terrible to say, I'm interested in getting as many students as we can get in the door, but I want to be sure we're using our scholarship dollars as wisely as possible. And I want to be sure that we're pricing our service as a university correctly to enable us to bias toward the higher end of those students. So I'll just kind of give you, that's my headline. So anyway, hopefully we'll have that session soon.
Yeah, and I think sorry.
Go ahead.
I thought what President Oldham said earlier about matching, being strategic about how you match maybe faculty or students with the areas of need. I'm sure you guys have all of that data, and that's just, I think could be really powerful as well.
We heard it from the Baja students today. I love the reinforcement of that, right?
But to me, I mean, sitting here listening to it, I think of this more of as a marketing problem that a business would have. I mean, you're trying to recruit customers and also your product, as you've pointed out in the past. But it's not just about metrics and statistics. It is about what is that marketing message and how are you getting that to the students? And I know we certainly have a PR department. There are other people at the university that work on, I guess, Tennessee Tech branding and everything. But to me, from a business point of view, I want to know how is that directly converted into students and populations that we are targeting for this university. So I think, anyway, to me, it's a marketing problem.
Mr. Chairman, don't you think that the metrics portray the success of the marketing problem?
Absolutely,
marketing?
But the solution is not in the metrics, it's in the marketing, and it's in...
Well, the metrics are never the solution. They're just a way to tell whether you're doing it right or not, aren't they?
That's exactly what we're looking at, sure.
What would these numbers look like for Knoxville or MTSU? Do you know?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how many.
The reason I'm asking is it'll be good for us to know whether all public universities have similar kind of statistics or not, right? And to see if we're off base.
That's a good idea.
I'm going to say again, though, I don't know whether the conversion percentage is as important as it is biased toward the higher end of the students, right?
And the students we want on the diversity side too.
Oh, good point. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Yes.
What did he say?
Biased toward the higher end and toward diversity.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. But getting more students is ultimately going to solve a lot of problems because we're a tuition-based university.
And so we use a lot of this information in OCM, Office of Communication Marketing has access to this, and so we are constantly in communication about the timing, like the transfer campaign that's going. That's not by accident, right? So we looked at our application metrics and we say, okay, when do most transfers apply? Well, it's when we're turning on our transfer marketing, and so those are the type of things that we're doing to make sure that we're in alignment. That it's not simply a brand campaign, and it does elevate just our recognition, but the goal of it is to convert applicants and admits and get them to enroll here. And so we are systematically working back and forth to ensure that the timing of our recruitment efforts are supported by the marketing efforts, and we'll continue to refine that. And every year, it's a new plan and it's a new execution of that plan to ensure we're aligned as best we can. There's 2 more slides, and they're nearly identical, except they're for transfer students. And so I'll just, again, we can get into the information, but this just shows conversion rates, sort of the status of where we are today, and then where we ended. Again, behind this, on the second page that we can share during the information, is we can tell from community college to community college how we're trending. If some are up, some are down. And so we even go to the element, especially on freshmen, transfers a little bit easier because of community colleges, but we have this data down to our counselors in our counties, right? And so we know, we dive as deep as we can to ensure that when we're, especially in the fall, just because we have more apps doesn't mean we're going to hit our goal, because they could be from counties that we don't necessarily convert from, right? And sometimes you do have oddities in your data sets that that really sort of set you up for failure if you're not paying attention. So we're continuing to look at those and monitor them based on county and counselor. It's also, you know, a way to monitor the counselor's productivity in their recruitment efforts and how many are they converting, how many apps are they generating. So it's a pretty robust process, and Judy Rigsby, our Director of Admissions, does an incredible job of the data and the analytics and the system integration to make sure that that's all sound.
Yeah, just one notice, you know, we were looking at the purple bars on the freshman students, and while they were continued to going up, I was a little concerned that the new transfers declined from 17 to 18.
Yeah.
And so to me, the new transfers and the freshmen is the total cumulative of new students coming to campus. So we might be doing good in freshmen, transfers were declining.
Yeah, let me add to that just a little bit. And that's Tennessee, going back, because this question's come up occasionally about Tennessee Promise and the impact of Tennessee Promise on enrollments at the four-year campuses. And I don't think we're really unique in this. One of the expectations from Tennessee Promise was, I think all the four-year campuses expected to see a decline in freshmen over the first couple of years at least, which we definitely experienced. There was an expectation that after those students completed a two-year degree at a community college, they would likely transfer to a four-year campus. That has not been realized, and that's not just a local phenomenon, that's across the entire state. There have not been a surge in transfer students post two-year degree completion as some expected.
So what happens to this
drop out after that?
Yeah, and actually some national studies would have indicated that was a very distinct possibility. Some of them stop out at that point, start their career, you know, life issues, any number of things. But we certainly haven't seen it. That even though you see a little bit of rise in transfer students at one point, and then a decline over the last couple of years. If you go back if you go back a decade or more, all of these numbers, the transfer numbers bounce around a lot. Okay, but all of those numbers are within the norm for historic transfer activity at Tennessee Tech. And so my point is that we've seen no trend up or down really in terms of transfer students.
What are we finding about those students in community college? Are they staying in for the full 2 years, or do they start for a semester and then don't make it even the full 2 years?
You know, the THAC data suggests that actually Tennessee Promise students are being pretty successful at the 2-year level. They're graduating sooner from 2 years, and they're graduating at a higher percentage than previously. So graduation rates at 2-year colleges have improved, but we have not seen a significant trend toward those students coming onto 4-year campuses at this point.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Johnson.
Dr. Johnson, I'm glad you're here. This was great stuff.
It's good to be here.
It's a tough problem.
Let me just point one anecdote here. Trustee Wilmore's high school, Mount Juliet, I think is number 2 in applications for us this coming fall. So kudos to Mount Juliet, and maybe you're pulling some strings there for us, Mary. I noticed they had your picture right up front of the school when I visited.
Who's number 1?
That's Cookeville High School.
Oh, that's my alma mater.
Yeah, that's right. Well played.
Okay. Sorry, Barry. Anyway, also this morning during another item that I'm going to add to the agenda is this morning there was a comment made about Tennessee Tech email accounts. And we asked about it, and I understood from Yvette that there are something like 65,000 email accounts. Is that correct? And again, my business is a security business, and to me, I think this is a huge security problem and liability for the university. I don't understand why we continue to maintain email accounts, whether it be for students or for faculty that are no longer affiliated with the university. And I think also, as I asked you earlier, you said there's a tremendous expense associated with maintaining those emails and the additional security required for that. And part of that security risk is simply due to the fact that now anyone, having one of those email accounts is also susceptible to phishing attacks or other types of malware, and yet those people that are no longer affiliated with the university don't have the training or responsibility to protect the university in that way. So I would like to propose, and it wasn't on the original agenda, but as chairman, I have the authority to go ahead and bring it up. But I would propose to entertain a motion to direct the Information Technology Office to take all appropriate steps to secure TTU's network, including removing email addresses of former employees and/or students that are no longer affiliated with the university. So I'd like to ask one of our board members if they would want to make that motion. So we have a motion made. Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion made and second. Now, since this is something new, do you want to discuss this further?
I just wanted to clarify, because it was 65,000 additional emails, correct? I mean, that's the total that is, they're not affiliated with the university.
Yvette, please come to the microphone. Tony, you can come up too. You.
There's somewhere around 65,000 total. That's the 10,000 or so students that we have, and our probably about 1,200 full-time and temporary.
And the rest
employees.
of those are not.
Those are former people that have retired,
right.
Or they're emeriti, and they're former students.
Yeah, and then I think the cost was also significant.
Just for one product, for me to get an advanced threat protection for the email alone, it's going to be $20,000. That covers what I'm paying for. There are the employees, faculty, and staff. They're actually throwing the current students in for free. But for me to pay what that per account usage would be like $765,000 additional dollars for me to cover the additional students and the retirees that have left the university.
I just think when I heard those numbers, it was concerning.
Tony, go ahead. I'm sorry. This is Tony Smith. Troy. I'm sorry, Troy.
Actually, my brother's name is Tony, and he's always entertained by that sort of thing.
I'm sorry, Troy. Troy Smith is our Faculty Senate President. Forgive me.
It's okay. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to speak for just a moment. There's a part of this that hasn't been mentioned, and I think that should be taken under consideration.
Thank you for standing
And that
up.
is that it's not entirely accurate to say that retired faculty are no longer associated with the university, because many retired faculty continue to do research and are published and represent the university to the community. And when they are published, the institutional affiliation is Tennessee Tech. So I'm not sure what the percentage is in the history department. Probably several of our retired faculty are very active in their fields.
Is it possible to differentiate between a retired faculty and a retired faculty that is still affiliated? In other words, if they're still affiliated, they would be doing research and directly with the university.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at, is that it might be worth taking the time to look into that. I don't know that there is right now, but perhaps there should be.
Troy, I think in our discussion earlier, you weren't privy to it.
Mm-hmm.
But we talked about that and the process to go through and make sure that no individual, or the individuals understood what the risk was, and reach out to them if they're willing to work with the university, they're still affiliated with the university, see if there's a way to continue to allow them to to use that email address. So
I
we
want-
talked about all this.
I want to clarify. In my motion, and in fact, I added what actually had K draft. I'm going to reread the motion. It says, the motion is to direct the Information Technology Office to take all appropriate steps to secure TTU's network, including removing email addresses of former employees and/or students who are no longer affiliated with the university.
Well,
Does that cover it? If I
that
add
distinction
clause?
is comforting, yes.
Okay, so that no longer affiliated with the university is part of that motion. Do you accept that, Johnny? That's what I said before.
I think from my perspective, we need to have a clear understanding of what that word means, affiliated, because I may have a totally different, understanding of what it means to me than Troy does to himself.
So the motion is to direct the Information Technology Office to make that determination and inform us.
If they can make the determination, the administrative office, I can support that.
Yvette, Troy, can you all work together on what that means?
Be happy to. Thank you.
Fair enough?
So the motion is that the administration's IT department will decide if there's an affiliation or not, and they won't be pressured anyway to add people who are not affiliated by their definition.
I think the Information Technology Office, Yvette, Dr. Bruce, stop talking just a minute. Sorry, Yvette. So to be clear, you will have to define what it means to be affiliated or not affiliated, and you can inform us at the next board meeting.
So, Mr. Chairman, are we asking them to get the thoughts together and share with us before they actually start implementing, or are we asking them to implement it? What I would like to see is I'd like them to come back to us and tell us, here's what the guidelines are, here's what we're doing and not doing. And because right now we're giving them carte blanche without knowing what those guidelines are.
It's a fair point. My concern from a security point of view is waiting until June. We will have an executive committee meeting in the interim. Would you be willing to allow the executive committee to make that review?
Yes.
Okay, so Johnny, I'm asking you to amend this motion as follows. Okay, please write fast. So the motion is to direct the Information Technology Office to take all appropriate steps to secure TTU's network, including removing email addresses of former employees and/or students who are no longer affiliated with the university, and to be approved by the executive committee.
So is it our responsibility in this motion to let them know that they're supposed to define what
the point is
affiliation?
they're going to define what the affiliation means, and Yvette said she's going to work with Troy to make that understanding, and at the next executive committee meeting, which will be well before our June meeting, the executive committee will have to approve what that affiliation definition means, and this will save us time, and it will empower the executive committee to move a little faster.
Just as a matter of clarification, I don't think Dr. Smith will disagree with this, but I think to get the entire faculty represented, we also want Dr. Bruce involved, and I'm sure Dr. Smith would agree with that. He's nodding his head. So do you agree too, Dr. Bruce? The faculty senate represents the faculty, but the provost has responsibility for that. So just kind of keeping it in line.
I agree.
I
don't think that requires...
None of that was in your motion. I just didn't want,
Yeah.
since there's been a lot of rhetoric about it, I didn't want to have any misunderstandings.
Well, the only misunderstanding from my vantage point would be if somebody took it upon themselves to decide what affiliation means other than the IT department.
Well,
But it's going to come to the executive committee.
That's going to come back to the executive
I think
committee.
we're okay.
you get another bite at the apple, you're on the executive committee.
So but I'm just one vote on the executive committee.
All right.
He's worried about those other rogue members on the executive committee. Well, I've got my mic
There's always
on.
one.
Can we take a vote? Let me ask it a different way. Do we have something procedural to do to agree to take a vote that wasn't noticed? Or I don't remember what our bylaws are, Ms. Carpenter. Do you know?
As chairman, I can pull it on.
Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's because he's a Cookville High School graduate. He can do that.
Well played.
So I do move that whatever Tom said there.
No.
And the K wrote down.
I'm going to repeat it again, and you can say so moved. So motion to direct the Information Technology Office to take all appropriate steps to secure TTU's network, including removing email addresses of former employees and or students who are no longer affiliated with the university, and to be approved by the executive committee at their next meeting.
To me, it sounds like when you say that you're approving who gets removed instead of what the criteria is. Just to make sure it's worded the way you want it.
And to approve the definition of affiliation. The executive committee will approve the definition of affiliation.
I thought that's what we were delegating to the IT department.
No. The IT department is going to make that definition with the appropriate people, the provost office and the Senate, and they're going to present it to the executive committee, and if we say yes, we approve that affiliation, then it'll go forward.
I so moved.
And we had a second?
Second.
The second approves those amendments to the motion. Any other discussion? Don't make me say it again. I'm going to have a roll call vote on that one, Kay.
Geist.
Aye.
Harper.
Aye.
Rose.
Aye.
Segurity.
Aye.
Stites.
Aye.
Van Hooser.
Aye.
Wilmore.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
8 ayes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, before we adjourn, one other thing too. Troy, please come up. And I understand that, I know we'll take care of this in June, but the Senate has appointed a new board member to be the faculty representative, and I also know you have a new Senate president-elect, and I just wish you would introduce them for us.
All right. Well, the new faculty representative on the Board of Trustees will be, and I'm not sure, I haven't seen her here,
I don't think
Sally
she's here.
Pardue.
She was here this morning.
She was here this morning, Sally Pardue. And the president-elect, who was elected last year to replace me, and I'm not going to let her get out of it, is Sandy Smith Andrews. And we'll be having, and soon we'll be having an election to choose the president-elect to replace her for the following year.
Thank you so much, Troy. And I just wanted to say, Sandy, welcome. And you know, it's important that we all work together, and that's why I wanted to recognize you at this time before the meeting got away from us. And thank you for your comments at lunch today. They were well appreciated. So, one last thing, Dr. Oldham, you had something?
Yes, we're excited that we're going to be hosting a postseason basketball game here this evening at the Hooper Evelyn Center at 6 o'clock. Our Lady Golden Eagles were fortunate enough to be invited to the Women's Invitational basketball tournament, and it's a great opportunity. I think it's the first postseason for our ladies team since 2012, so it's been a while, and Coach Rosemond's done a fantastic job. Great team, exciting. I hope everybody that is available can come to the Evelyn Center tonight and enjoy some great postseason basketball against the University of Akron.
Thank you, Dr. Oldham. I just one last thing, Kay, thank you so much, and thank you for the staff at Tennessee Tech for helping us to adapt in real time. Dr. Johnson, being able to get that information in our book that quickly, that was very beneficial. Did we miss anything? Thank you so much. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.